And we're live. Welcome to Earful of Dirt Lineouts, episode 25, with Rob Cain, the head coach of the USA Women Eagles 15. He is the former head coach of Saracens Women and Templar Sevens. Also, some London Southeast,
Yeah, a bit of London Southeast as well.
So, Rob, how are you doing today?
Mate, really good. I'm a little bit tired, if I'm honest. It's been a heavy schedule, but all really positive.
Well, you guys had a good run against England the other day.
Oh, the players did a great job.
Until that card on the, I think it was the loose head.
Yeah, I think a lot of people make a lot of noise about yellow cards and how they make a difference, but I think the players did really well. Really pleased how much they grew in 2 weeks. That was a heavy block for them, and it was a much better performance the second time round. But they had so much more time together, and they could get to know each other's skill sets and really enjoy it. And it's just a shame that we couldn't score those 2 or extra 3 tries, because I think the momentum was beginning to swing our way.
I agree. You guys were, especially in the second quarter, things were pretty even, and the girls were responding, and it was basically 2 tries after another and tied up, almost going into the second half, and still in the second half, you guys were really competitive. I think cards, depending on position, have an effect on the game. More so than others.
Yeah, of course so. Of course they do. But I think in context, James English and Kate Daly, who were leading on that, they did a great job. And of course, the players, they did a fantastic job. New set of players. We threw a lot of information at them. We gave them an indication of what a senior week would look like as well. And I think James and Kate, who are both very good coaches, did a really good job in helping the players have a wonderful 2 weeks.
So, enough about that. For those that don't know, the Women's Junior All-Americans were in Nova Scotia for a Women's Tri-Nations tournament with Canada U20 and England U20, and it's a pretty nice tournament. We are coming home, I guess, because we had the first 2 games. It will conclude this weekend with Canada playing England on Saturday. So about you, let's dig into this. This is what this is about, and I know the one thing that you don't like to talk about is yourself. So
there's not. There's not a great deal to say, but we go with some questions.
So when did you begin playing rugby?
Story of most kids in the UK is sort of focused on rugby, football or cricket. So I played all those sports growing up, and then I sort of focused on rugby really from about 14, 15. Had some really good school teachers, and just enjoyed being part of a bigger team, and the contact and throwing the ball about and having fun with it.
So, you're called the Beast. Why are you? Come on, there's got to be a real story here.
Yeah, you just sometimes get nicknames, don't you? And they just stick. And I think that's just my nickname. I suppose there's loads of different reasons behind it. I couldn't really give you an answer about it, but some people do know me as just Beast. They don't know me as Rob. But yeah, it's an interesting nickname. To be fair, I've come off quite well, because I could have ended up with worse nicknames than the Beast.
So let's talk about you as a player a little bit. What position did you play?
So I played anywhere, second row, number 8, 6 or 7, and then in sevens I played prop or hooker. They were my sort of key positionings.
So when it comes to you as a player, how did that shape you as a coach?
So I was very fortunate to come across some really good people. I was lucky to play rugby in New Zealand and to play all different levels in the UK in the professional league. So I came across some really good people, and I came across some really good coaches. I came across some not so good people and some not so good coaches. So it's enabled me to really remember and think about how people made me feel, and how they treated me as a player. So I have taken that into my sort of coaching life, remembering the good things and trying not to repeat the bad things.
So when it comes to you as a coach, I mean, how do you do things differently when it comes to women, men, boys, and girls across codes? Because you've coached sevens, you've coached 15s, you've coached, young ladies, young men, and then senior men and senior women.
So it's all rugby, right? It's the same. You're coaching the same. The way you interact and the language that you use might be slightly different, but you're only ever really coaching the individual, and you need to know what they need. So it's always rugby, and then when you work up from the individual, you look at what the unit needs. So if that's a back line or a back three or a front five or a line out, so you're always coaching for them. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, as coaches, we're all very guilty of coming up with these big master plans and wonderful PowerPoints, but sometimes it's not really relative to who you're coaching to. So that's the biggest thing. You need to keep everything relative to the people that you're coaching with, and that changes depending on the group that you have.
So for those that don't know who Rob Cain is, I understand he's English, so he's definitely not been here too long, but you'll get to know him very well.
Not too long, Aaron. Not too long, mate. I've been here too long. You can just call me Rob, Aaron. It's a lot better.
So for those that don't know Rob, in his last job as Saracens women's head coach, they won the Tyrells, the women's premiership in 2015, his first year with Saracens. And then you guys went to the semifinal in 2016. You won the women's premiership sevens title in 2017. And then last year in the inaugural Tyrells Premier 15s competition, you guys won it again. So that just to give you an idea of who we're dealing with, everyone. Rob's a pretty good get. So let's talk a little bit about sevens. At Templar sevens, you became known as a person that believed in the individual. Like, this has led to, really great player achievement, in our last conversation when we're having technical issues. You talk about
with the Gremlins, when the Gremlins jumped on the line.
Well, yeah, you talked about having great players, but how does that focus? Can you explain that part of your philosophy, the focus on the individual?
Yeah. So again, like, everything that we do as coaches is just words and systems, or it's ideas, really, and it it takes a very special group of players or people, support staff, S&C, doctors, medical, to really bring that to life. And it's really important that everyone believes in what you're doing, and that's when you can do some special things. I've been very fortunate to meet some really good people wherever I go, and enjoyed success. But really, for me, I mean, the titles are always special, and I'd be lying if I was saying that they weren't special. But for me, it's the culmination of everyone's backstory, because everyone has a backstory, and you got someone that might have come back from injury and has been out for 9 months, and they win a title, but you remember all the struggles, all the times that they were doing the rehab, and then they were going through their return to plays, and and I enjoy those memories are really special, and seeing people become the best version of themselves. They're the special moments, and the titles and everything is sort of like the culmination of that.
So you were coach of the year for the Super 7 series in 2012.
I was.
I'm still gonna put you on the spot here. You're gonna tell me it was all the players, but for you, I would say, how did that group of players make that season special for you?
Yeah, so I mean, there was there was some really good coaches involved that year. Obviously, Mike Friday was involved in the series. Tim Walsh, they're both internationally recognised coaches. Russell Earnshaw was around at that stage as well, and I was really just starting out on sort of like my coaching journey. So again, I was very fortunate to get that award. There's a lot of plaudits that came my way, but ultimately it's the players that have to play the game. So they're the ones that have to do all the hard work. And yes, we do the work behind the scenes, and we try and make sure they can do what they need to do. But I mean, we had a couple of guys that projected on to New Zealand Sevens. One became an All Black. Two are now playing Premiership in the UK. So one's in the top 14 side. So I think for me the biggest memory is that I just feel privileged that I was able to work with them. Like for me, that was special, and also my brother was part of that as well. So to do that with my younger brother was a very special moment, especially against teams that did have huge budgets and were like massive machines, if say, and we're just a small team, just raising profile for a charity and really doing everything like a proper tour, with with really not the same sort of infrastructure as some of these big teams. So it was nice. It was nice when we won the series.
So crossing over a little bit, how does sevens fit into your philosophy as a 15s coach?
I think sevens is a great game. It's brilliant. I mean, it can really be used as a great development tool. It helps people's core skills. They catch and pass, see in space, being comfortable in space, and I think for a 15s player, it's a really good accelerated learning tool. Obviously, as you go up through the programs, there'll be certain people that make a choice whether they're going to be a sevens player or 15s player, and that's normally down to body type or the energy systems that they're trying to train really, and the physical profiling is obviously different in both sports. You do get some big sevens players, but in 15s you tend to get slightly bigger rugby players.
So, I mean, that's talking a little bit about sevens, and then sort of into your recruitment when it comes to athletes. At Saracens, you recruited a World Cup touch player. How does touch play into your philosophy and your style as a coach?
Yeah, again, really good spatial awareness, very good core skills, great catch and pass. Nice way to pass, can see space, and I actually did that for the first time. I did that was in the 7 series when in 212 we had a player called George Tilsley. He now plays for Ajon in the top 14, and he went on to play for New Zealand Sevens, but he was a touch player. So I've seen it work out in the male game before. And then Garnet McKinder, who is the player you're talking about, she's really quick. She's got great pace, really good finisher, and I was really pleased that she went on to get capped by England in the World Series. That's a big moment for her. She worked very hard for that. So again, I was just really happy to be part of her journey. Like all the players I work with, I'm only a very small part of their journey. I can't stress this enough. Like they have to do all the work. I'm literally just a very small part of their journey to help them, point them in the right direction, or to help them with the skill sets that they need.
So this last year, I mean, I guess it was sort of different for you as a coach, and maybe it wasn't, but the optics for the whole situation and how women's rugby is growing and evolving. This last year at Saracens, how much was it different being, the Tyrell's Premier 15s as the regular season, and then eventually the champion versus, when it was just the women's premiership and, the requirements were just different?
It was really special. The league was ferocious. The contacts, the ball in play, there weren't any easy games. I think the rugby spoke for itself. The games were very competitive, and the luxury of that is that the league allowed so many players to get that accelerated learning, and they're the ones that are now kicking on for different international honours. you know, ourselves, I think we had something like 12, 18-year-olds or 12 teenagers in the squad, or maybe it was a bit high. All kicked on, and I'm just really just to be part of that small little process of them doing that. It's be interesting to see how that league goes in year 2.
So without giving away too much, what did your training program look like there?
So really, again, just trying to give the players every opportunity to just to layer up their memories and to really give them enough exposure of seeing with the right details so they can problem solve. And that's it in a nutshell. You know, principles and skill sets put together. It's nothing out of the ordinary.
So, you know, sort of touching on your experience, you know, building up the Templar Sevens program, do you think that will help you as the Eagles head coach? Because, I mean, for the most part, you know, the resources that are devoted to in the past to the Women's Eagles 15, it takes a long-term program builder to achieve over time. I mean, your predecessor was the head coach for 11 years. And to an extent, I mean, you are starting over a bit because the women have until or basically 9 months without a coach.
Yeah, definitely. Again, you know, I think huge plaudits to the previous regime, you know, with Pete and his team, and you know they obviously had great success at the World Cup. Slightly different mindset and views on how the program was work, and obviously I've come in and I've got my views and I've got the way that I'd like to do things, like any new person will. And yeah, I think, you know, obviously there's a big focus on the World Cup, quite rightly. That's the you know, the next big competition, and we're going to be building towards that over the next couple of seasons. There are going to be some exciting announcements soon about, you know, test matches and what we're trying to do with the program. So we're just literally finalising all that, and then that should hopefully get everyone excited, because I'm excited.
I mean, two of them we already know about. You know, the Black Ferns and the Ireland game.
Oh yeah, but there's going to be more. There's going to be more. You know, there's going to be more announcements, more excitement, more games, and really, just, you know, like you said, obviously I'm coming in with no sort of prior knowledge to how things work, which is I think is a positive thing, because players that weren't given an opportunity, or players that weren't looked at, or coaches that weren't given an opportunity for various reasons, then I don't have any of that preconceived idea about anyone. So I can come in with a fresh set of eyes, different type of energy. You know, 11 years is a long time. So it allows me to look at things differently and to attack it the way I think it should be attacked.
So I'm the kind of person, because of my background, not really to try and take your soapbox here, but when it comes to when it comes to programs, and this is going to lead into what I'm going to ask is, okay, you know, in the football sense, like at not really at the collegiate level, but more so at the local level in high school, you tend to see integrated programs. Your varsity, your senior grade squad runs a specific style of offense and defense and special teams. And then all the way down to the youth side that is playing locally, they run the same system. So when those kids get up to that age, they have everything. So for you as the women's national team head coach in 15s, you know, what will you do with age grade and sevens programs? I mean, you were just on tour with the Women's Junior All-Americans head coach, James English. You know, have you thought about it, or has this been, you know, in the back of your mind? How will you integrate all of these programs so that we can achieve? Because there is a bit of an integration in the top programs in the world when it comes to women's rugby.
Yeah, you're right. And that's a really good question. I mean, again, I was very lucky. James is, you know, great guy, good coach, and was very, you know, was really welcoming. And, you know, I was very fortunate where him and Kate both agreed that it was good that we could mirror the, you know, what our week would look like when we go away on tour. So the first week we'll let the players bed in, and James very kindly agreed to let me put in place the second week of what a national tour would look like. So the players were exposed to that. So, to answer your question, that's what we're trying to do. I'm going to be working my way all through the programs from the ground up, and all through the rugby from the ground up, from WPL. I'm going to meet all the WPL clubs, meeting the varsity and the colleges, and trying to just to get everyone on the same page, like you say, where we're all aspiring to help these rugby players be the best version of themselves, and kick on to the highest honours as possible.
And then part of the original job listing talked about, the ability to assist the women's sevens program. Of course, I mean, your resume speaks for itself. You're a high-level sevens coach as well. How do you feel you'll integrate into the sevens program now?
It's a really good question. I imagine at some point I'll probably do some skill work with the players. I think there's a to answer that question fully, probably be better in a couple of weeks. So what's happened since I've been in the country? I've been in the country since July. So I arrived in the country. I was very, very humbled to work on a Hawkeye program with some of the under-20s, which was fantastic. I then went into a great senior camp where I was so impressed by the players and coaches and support staff, work ethic, and their coachability and the product they delivered in terms of rugby. So that was a really positive thing. And then I went up to the Junior All-Americans to Halifax. I went up the night camp finished. So spent 2 weeks up there. Great again, working with all support staff. So since I've been in the country, I've managed to get eyes on 100 players in our player pool, which is just invaluable. And I've had eyes on all the support staff, so it's given me a real good indication of where we are. And then I left Halifax, and the reason I'm in my car is because I'm in Boston. So I came to Boston and I met with Beantown yesterday and did some training with Beantown, which was great. And I went to Harvard today, so spent the day with Harvard, which was fantastic. And then I'm off to Dartmouth to go and have a look at the program at Dartmouth. And the reason I go to the colleges is to see their programs, but also because we got athletes there. So Kimber's at Harvard, so I did a great skill session with Kimber today. And then I'll be doing some work with the players that are at Dartmouth tomorrow, Stacey Bridges, Kat Ramage, and players like that. And then I come back on Sunday and I watch the WPL game. So it's been a non-stop adventure so far.
So I mean, the last time we had a chance to talk, I sort of wanted to talk about selection and development and metrics, and I know you stated that you're going to be working on developing those specifically for the Eagles training squad. But what are some past selection criteria that you've used when you were coaching the Saracens that are non-proprietary?
So I think the first and foremost is that we want to play a really aggressive, high tempo version of rugby. That's what I've done everywhere I've coached, and it's not going to be any different. We want players that are problem solvers, and we want them to have fun. We want them to be able to express their individuality. So I was so happy for Mata, who played against England. She's got a great step, she's got a nice turn of pace, and she just backed her ability. And we just want every player to enjoy those magic moments. And that's basically what we're gonna really work hard on, so everyone can express their skills within a team environment and have fun doing it. I mean, they're going to have to work hard. International rugby is hard work, but they can have a lot of fun with it as well. And really, it's the rugby detail. It's really working hard on the rugby detail, and athletically, there's some wonderful athletes in the programs, like all over the place. It's just making sure they understand what they're doing and how they're going about it. And that's a big responsibility for me and the coaches to make sure that we're explaining ourselves correctly, because it's very easy to blame a player. Oh, you don't understand it. Well, have a second. Have you explained it right? if you can't explain it simply in 3 seconds, then it's too complicated. So it's really agreeing your language and making sure that your language and what you're trying to do is relative to the player that you're working with. So yeah, so fast, aggressive rugby. You know, core skills are obviously going to be important, and then just like every rugby coach, you want to get as much go forward as possible.
So, you know, how will you provide feedback to players that are in a spot in the Eagles training squad, but more importantly to their coaches, so that they can coach them on those things at the club level?
That's a great question. So what we put in place is obviously we've seen the first 100 players that were in the original player pool. So on top of that, we're going to aspire to increase our player pool. So as I'm going around to the various WPL clubs and colleges, then we start adding players through a player ID, whether that's a physical profile or a rugby profile, and they start adding to the player pool. So for example, 2 players were added today who I went to look at Harvard, which is brilliant because you can see a lot from footage and you can see a lot from people, but it's important that you see them face to face. You know, you can see what their character traits are like, and then you can see what they're like as a rugby player. You have to see what they're like as a person. The person is so important and often forgotten about. So I'm really made up that this kid's getting added today. So she'd just come into the pool, you know, she'd start working on the S&C program that we're working on, and then getting feedback from me. So the way it works is all the players will have individual development plans, and they get shared with their club coaches or college coaches, depending on where the player is based. And that will be privy to the coaches for us to discuss. I'll be watching all the games, so all the support staff, and then it's just loads of interactions. You know, we just want people to get in touch, and then we can just look at the player, look at the footage, and then if we need to go and see them, we'll go and see them. It's the big word is opportunity. Like, I'm all about opportunity and form. If someone's playing well, they're going to get an opportunity, and that's I've shown that everywhere that I've gone. You know, reputation is nice, reputation is good, but it really is about opportunity and form.
Outstanding. I'm a big systems guy when it comes to rugby, because, you know, on the football side of the house, it's systems everywhere. So that's great to hear. So moving on to, I guess, player development systems that are in place. What do you think so far of, you know, I guess you'll get a chance to see the entire WPL season coming up pretty soon, and then you have you know, D1 club rugby, NIRA, and then women's college D1, and then the NDAs, who basically just concluded their season with Club Sevens. A few of them, I forget. I think there may be another women's tournament going on this summer, but it's pretty much over for the Club Sevens season. Yeah.
So again, as I'm going around the country and meeting people, then it gives me a good indication. I think everyone can always aspire to do better, me included, same as my staff. You know, we're by no means perfect with what we do, and it's really just accepting that everyone needs a bit of help and support. So as I go around, that's part of what I'm trying to do. We're going to be supporting the clubs and the colleges and the D1 teams with, you know, educational from a coaching resource, they need it, same as S&C, and then just making sure they're all aligned so they can help these players become the best version of themselves, whether that's with their contact skills, whether that's with their catch and pass, whether that's with their rugby sense, and we're really here to share and to bounce ideas about so they can achieve that. You know, because all the players are predominantly in their colleges or WPL teams or varsity teams or D1 teams majority of the time, and then they come to us. So it's about having a collaborative and shared approach, so everyone's on the same page.
So of late, you know, and this was, I would say this, how to phrase this, a long time ago, everyone was a crossover athlete into rugby in the women's game, because, I mean, women's rugby really didn't start getting big until the 80s. And, you know, in the 70s is when it just kicked off here, and for a long time, you know, American women went on tour and dominated. if you dig into some Scrum Queen stuff. I always love reading their history stuff on the American game.
They do Scrum Queens do some really good things, don't they? They really do.
Oh yeah. So of late, we're seeing a lot of top level athletes from other sports still make an impact on both the women's sevens and women's 15s. You've got the likes of Olive Kelter, who is my favorite player, so she better make sure she's on the squad too. And then
no pressure.
And then also Portia Woodman. So how do you recruit and develop athletes from outside the sport to aid your teams?
It's a really, really good question, and something that we're just discussing at the moment. Obviously, crossover athletes, especially in America, you've got so many different sports that people play. Really, it'd be a mixture of looking at physical profiling, with their speed, obviously for sevens, height and weight, and where we think they could project in 15s, and then just working really hard to work on their skill sets. Whether that's a case of, helping a program being put together at college for an individual player, or whether it's a case of having camps and inviting them in. There's various ways you can go about it.
So, getting into a little bit about youth, historically in the Women Eagles, well, maybe not historically, but in the last 20 years, young collegiate players have always, been contributed. What's your view here? Because if we notice with the Red Roses, they blooded several young players, notably, I brought this up, Jessica Breach, who's at Harlequins and England Sevens in her first cap. She scored 6 tries. So, there's that.
Really, really pleased for Jess. Really pleased for Jess. I coached Jess when she was 16. I'm really pleased for her.
So how do you project youth will play into this?
Just looking at the player pool and figuring all that out, there's going to be some, if you're good enough, you're old enough, and likewise, that we're not saying no to people that are of a certain age, in terms of playing international rugby, but there has to be a little bit of realism about it. When the next World Cup happens, in terms of that number, and more importantly, how they can perform. Can they back it up? I think there's going to be surprises with the selection as we start doing it over the next couple of weeks, and it doesn't mean we're going to pick youngsters all the way through, because you need that invaluable experience. But I do have, I have had a little bit of form before of giving youngsters opportunity and allowing them to grow, and that's shown at my time at Saracens, and it does bear fruit at the end. But it's the same as working with older players. It's all about giving people an opportunity and just seeing how they crack on.
Youth. You had 6 young women under 20 on your last Saracens team. So wasn't it? That's what I read. That's what I read.
Yeah, we had. I'm just trying to think now. So you've got me thinking. So we had 2 teenagers at Loosehead and Tighthead. Teenager at Lock.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, teenager at Lock. We had teenager at 6. We had a couple of teenagers that were 9s. We had a teenager 10, 12, 13 on the wing. But the thing was, the great thing is that we had some invaluable experienced players as well. So they help the youngsters develop as well, and it's the same model here. There will be opportunities for youngsters, but it's invaluable the experienced players play their part, and part of that is aiding the development of these younger players, of what it means to be an Eagle, what it's like to be an Eagle, and really manage their emotions as they go through the games.
So, I guess this isn't really about. Well, it is still about development and putting players on the national team, but in the American rugby model that was launched back in March, with when I sat down with Emily Bidwell and Alexander Magleby, the high performance manager and the women's general manager. They talked about finding opportunities for women to play in New Zealand and to find places for them to play in the Tyrrell's Premier 15. So what's your view of overseas opportunities? And you have one young woman in the player pool who plays for Harlequins ladies in Jess Wooden. So if the opportunity arose for other players, would that be encouraged?
Yeah, look, the most important thing is that players are playing rugby, and they're playing, lots of rugby. We're obviously putting together at the moment. We're trying to put together a program that fits in within international rugby, and there's challenges with that throughout various different courses. But we're not opposed to players playing overseas if it benefits the player, and I think it's really just an individual case by case. What they're going to get out of it. That's the biggest thing. I think you might see certain players go overseas because it's going to benefit them, but we're trying really hard to use the programs that are in place over here to allow them to really have that inner competition in the player pool, so they can really progress even further. But you might see a few players go overseas, and the biggest reason for that would be that it's going to benefit them more. And I'm up for anything that benefits players. Anything that's going to benefit them, then I'm on board with.
So now let's get a bit technical. Let's put the technical hat on.
It is 4:45 on a Friday, so we'll see.
So I want you to put. You're gonna have to tell me. Don't say we just do this or we do that. So what style, what style of attack do you like to use? If it's a variable attack, what is the base of your system?
So we just play principles and skill sets. There's no system.
So you're not using shapes.
Yeah, we the speed of balls sort of dictate everything that we do. There's no magic formula. We just go forward, continuity and support, and let players see what they see. I'm being genuine. That's as technical as it gets.
I always put pressure on every coach I interview because I want to know if they're using a 1-3-3-1. I want to know if they're using a 2-4-2, and I want to know if they're the All Blacks play the 1-6-1, and that is a variable attack that is almost it's impossible to replicate it, right? So I always want to know what you guys are doing because I think that's a big way to grow the sport, is to expand the technical knowledge to the fan, because Americans play Madden all the time and they want to know.
I like the game too. I like that as well.
So that's one of the reasons why I ask about technical systems, is because stats and technical systems is how I think we can grow the fan base, because people just love data and stuff like that.
Yeah. So what we want to do is we just want to play aggressive, high tempo, go forward rugby with and without the ball. That's as technical as we are. It's the simple things done well. I think sometimes we can overcomplicate things, and there are out.
Oh, dang it!
There are some good systems, like you said, out there, which people play, and that's down to them. I just think it's about getting players to be able to make those accurate decisions under pressure and doing the simple things done well. And I think we can overcomplicate it. There's 15 different ways you can attack. There's 15 different ways you can defend. It doesn't mean you're doing the right thing to what you see or the right thing that's in front of you.
So let's talk about the defense. Are you a big blitz guy, or are you more into pressure and man?
Just winning collisions. It's all about winning collisions. That's all it is. Whether it's a drift, whether it's a blitz, whether it's a hinge, again, we can overcomplicate it. Like, win the collision, slow the ball down, and that's pretty much it. Make a decision about whether you're getting on the ball or whether you're not. That's as technical as it has to be, in my opinion. And again, it's just my opinion. Obviously, there's a bit more to it, but that's the essence of it.
So moving on to, I guess, development of coaches. One of our biggest needs, I guess, is technical development of coaches. How will you help facilitate the development of not just other high performance coaches, but community club coaches, so that we can just install the skills at a young age?
So I'm going to Denver in a couple of weeks, which would be great, and I'm going to meet with Kenny, who is involved in the educational piece of coaches, and then on top of that, we're going to be inviting college and varsity coaches and WPL coaches to our camps so they can come and spend time with us and shadow us, and then just try and share as much information as possible. It's a long-term thing. Those things take time, and it's about helping people understand the difference between between teaching and coaching. Teaching is very much telling and getting people to do something in how you would do it, and coaching is about helping a player get to a place using certain language and technical detail, which is two very different things.
So I guess the final part of the serious stuff here. Maybe I'll have one more serious question before when we get into the fun stuff. But so if young players are listening, because we do have a really weird skew of an audience, so there's going to be a lot of people listening to this one. What are the key skills you want them to focus on if they're looking to play at the national
level? So first and foremost, play with a smile on your face, have fun with it. If you've got a great step, just show everyone how good your step is. If you've got a great kick, show everyone how great your kick is. Like, really embrace the things that make you an individual. Whether that's an offload out the back door, whether that's a one-handed pass, and then it's really just the key core skills. Making sure your catch and pass is up to speed, your tackle technique is sound, and your decision making. The rest we can work on. Those would be just the three key things: catch and pass, tackle technique, and decision making at the breakdowns. Those are three good areas to really start on.
So let's move a little way from the rugby. It's still part of rugby, but it's going to be a little bit personal. So your partner is a stud. Your partner is a stud at rugby. Like, how do you deal with being a coach and then having her around, just trot around winning medals?
Yeah, she's really good. She's very good. She is very good at rugby. Yeah, again, just I'm very fortunate to watch her play. I love watching her play. Really enjoy seeing her do well, and yeah, we have a lot of fun with it.
So, Jedi or wizard?
That is a great question. Wizard.
Moldeds or studs?
Studs.
Oh, good. I was gonna, I chastise the players whom are backs that I have on. I chastise them. Studs. It's just, molded sort of wear out. I was talking to talk about why one of the reasons why I hate moldeds, but studs is what real rugby players wear. But I worked with the Canadian Sevens team for a week at Silicon Valley Sevens, and I was talking to them about what boots they wear, and they're like, well, we all wear studs here because when it comes to moldeds, it's like we get one pair of cleats a year from Under Armour. So we wear studs because if in the series, they would go through 4 or 5 pairs of moldeds a season.
Oh, easily. And you don't, especially for front 5 forwards, and it's so important that you wear studs, and it just allows you to get so much better grip. And I suppose we're very lucky over here in America, where the weather is, when people play the game, the weather's really good, and the grounds are like carpets, so they can get away with it. But studs make a big difference when you're a forward.
So, favorite food? I know you like dessert, but
I love dessert, Aaron. That's pretty much the only reason I lift weights now, is so I can have a good slice of cake. Favorite dessert? That's a good question. Have you heard of an Eccles cake?
No. What is
So
it?
it's a cake with soft pastry with sugar all over the top, and it's got like a currant filling. It's a northern dish from up north in the UK. I'm a big fan of Eccles cake, and actually, I like a slice of pumpkin pie.
I tell you, this thing looks interesting. My partner, she is about as English as an American can get. I mean, she's when it comes to like genetics. I mean, her last name is Wooster, and you know the other last name is Northrop, and it's like she's English and she loves English stuff. It's really weird, but she's in Arizona. But that Eccles cake looks fun. But pumpkin
it's a lot of fun.
Pumpkin pie.
Pumpkin pie.
Yeah,
Love
I'm
nice slice of pumpkin pie.
I'm all over pumpkin pie at Thanksgiving. You should you can come to the house and we'll have pumpkin pie. But so I did some looking around.
Okay.
You stole the Calcutta Cup. Let's get the story on that.
Oh yeah, that was, I think, the Calcutta Cup. So there was a tournament up in I think there was a tournament up in Newcastle, Sevens tournament, and there's a few of us managed to steal it away for a photo, and then we put it back quite nicely.
Well, I was hoping for you took it to the pub like.
Oh no! There was the Calcutta Cup wasn't harmed during any of the process. I'm actually pretty sure that we managed to get it off one of the people that were sort of bringing it on display. So I'm pretty sure it was in safe hands. Yeah, there's no crazy story to that, unfortunately.
Dang. Sad. Well, everyone, that is Rob Cain. We're gonna have to talk to him after he comes off tour, because you guys got a pretty solid setup for November. What I've got is Black Ferns the first weekend in November, and then we've got Ireland women, and then we've got another test, and then an A game. Yeah.
So it's a great schedule. Emily's been working really hard on that, and the fixture in the A League is going to be announced soon, I'm led to believe. So that'll be exciting news. It's very important that we really do embrace playing international games, and players get used to it. I think on average, in the last cycles, I think maybe there was like 8 or 9 games in 3 years. Which
it was we were at 3.5.
Yeah. So it's
pretty rough.
It's not enough to grow as a team, and like at Saracens in the last 4 years, I think I did like, I don't know, probably maybe 110, 112, 120 match days, and it takes time for everyone.
That's too much. All right.
Oh, it gets everyone. The thing is it takes time. Match days are an art, and people need time to bed in, and they need to be there emotionally, physically, mentally, and as a rugby person. So we need players that are sort of battle hardened on the road, and they're used to traveling, they're used to a certain format, they enjoy the format, and you're only going to get that through games. You can't replicate that, and that's going to be exciting. So I'm really excited about the tour. Some big challenges, playing the world champions, which will be a nice way to kick it off. And I think the biggest thing is that after the tour, we know exactly where we are. We're still learning. We're still seeing what the landscape looks domestically, and then we will see just where we are at an international level, and we'll have some really good measurables to work from then. Like how many collisions do we have to win a test match? What the average ball in play in is. We get some really good data from that, and the players will get some really good experiences and hopefully make some everlasting memories.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things for development is the Black Ferns. They won this one on an average of 6 matches a year. And then previously, England being the previous women's champion, they have averaged 11 test matches a year for like 8 years.
Yeah,
And
and
that's
then on
like
top of that,
that's
on top of that, they've got their club games as well. So most of those players are playing 20, 30 games a year, which is, people think it sounds a lot because we're not used to playing that number over here. But you only, as much as we coach players and as much as we work really hard together on skills, players learn through games. It's the best learning tool ever. So the more they get exposed to games, the more they're going to learn, the more they're going to grow. And that's why it's so important that we give them the opportunity to be able to do that. And that's why I'm excited about November. You know, there's going to be 4 games there. That's, you know, four caps for people that go away, 4 more than when they started already. That's more than what I think they played for 1 year in their cycle. And then it's the responsibility of Emily and myself to make sure that we're really putting together the calendar to make sure that they get the opportunities to experience it. You know, it shouldn't be they play every now and then. They have to play a lot more.
I agree. Well, everyone, that's Rob Cain. I think we're going to be in great hands going forward. But you know, I will be. I tell all my coaches, like, you know, if you know, if it's after a game and there's some technical questions that need to be beat you up on, you know, I'll beat you up in the press conference, because that's my playing field. So, yeah, I look forward to watching the ladies play the Black Ferns in November. We'll be there. And for the record, my first test match ever was USA Women versus Canada.
Is that right?
Yeah, in April of 2017. So my first
Wow.
test match ever was a women's match, and you know, I think you know, some people have interesting and poor opinions to say about women's rugby, but it's you know, at the international level, especially USA, Canada, England, New Zealand, it's very high standard. The pace is a little bit different, but for the most part, I think the skill level. I find that the skill level is usually better, because it's just different technically, because of the shapes and the fitness levels are different. So catch pass, to me, to my untrained eyes, I guess, looks a lot better, and there's just more awareness with, and you see just different things occur than you see in like super regimented Eddie Jones camp.
Oh, well, that's almost like a loaded question, isn't it?
It's not really a loaded question. It's more me.
No, I know. It's your opinion.
Commenting
It's your
about
opinion.
what
Yeah.
I see. So, I mean, I think great, and I love it.
Yeah, I think most people that haven't seen women's rugby will have a certain viewpoint. And one thing that's been really great over the years that I've been involved in elite women's rugby is that when they watch a game or they watch 2 games, that viewpoint changes very quickly, and you find that they really enjoy the spectacle of women's rugby for various different reasons. But it's, you know, it's a lot of fun, and the players work really hard, and it's always good when they score lots of tries, because everyone wants to score lots of tries. And the great thing that's happened the last couple of seasons, especially as the game's got more detailed, is more players get to have those little individual moments like the men. You know, so set piece is a huge thing now, and you see the props going at it, hammer and tongs, big collision wins, steals at the breakdown. So, you know, it's a little bit different from the men.
I mean,
But
you see the game growing tremendously overseas. What was it? The same weekend where 20,000 were in France for during the Six Nations. Watch England France. You had 5,000 people at the Stoop to watch Harlequins ladies. I forget, were they playing you guys?
No. So Harlequins were playing Richmond that day, but that's a huge thing that they managed to achieve, to have a domestic club game, have 5,000 people. You know, Harlequins worked really hard with that, and so did Richmond, and it was great to see that work come to fruition. France has a huge appetite for women's rugby. We, as Saracens, we went over there a few times for pre-season, played against a few of their top teams, and you know, it was regularly 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 people watching. And I suppose that's what we're trying to do here. We're just trying to really grow the game, make ourselves really accessible to people. So, you know, I'm here for people that are in women's rugby, and I've made that very clear. You know, if people want to get in touch, please do. And you know, the aspiration is that we can make some big changes and just help everyone get better.
Well, thanks for your time, Rob. I think we told your story a bit and what you're about for the American rugby fan, and hopefully for some prospective players that will listen to this, find out what they need to do, and then get on your radar.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a, you know, thanks for your time. It's been a lot of fun, Aaron. Thank you for your time.